Kamusta na kayo?
Hola, hola, everyone.
What's up, everybody? My name is Nico Blitz.
And I'm Jackie Ramirez.
And this is the Mexipino Podcast, episode 51.
51, yeah.
51, yes. And, I know we were all very excited for episode 50. And I will say that this is going to be an extremely short podcast because we felt like we needed to talk about everything that happened over this past Lunar New Year. Jackie has all the information for that.
So for those who aren't living in California or don't really know what's going on this past weekend over the Lunar New Year, there was 2 mass shootings within the AAPI community, one being extremely close to home for me, literally one happening in Monterey Park, California. And Monterey Park is legit 7 to 10 minutes away from where I currently live.
Yes.
So this hit home very, very close for me. Now, while I am not a part of the AAPI community, like I said, it's part of my home. Monterey Park is part of my home, and I have friends who live there. Their families celebrate the Lunar New Year, and I do want to reiterate that this mass shooting did not happen at the Lunar New Year festival. It happened at a dance studio, and it was just a tragic event that no one really knows why it took place. The day after, unfortunately, or either a day after or 2 days after, unfortunately, there was another mass shooting within the AAPI community that was up in Half Moon Bay, which is part of Northern California.
Yeah, it's back in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of hit both Nico and I mean, Nico wasn't even here at the time when this did happen because he was traveling, but I was here, and just to see kind of the distraught in everyone's faces and what was supposed to be a weekend and week of celebration turned into a week and a week of mourning. And that's something that, we wanted to talk to you guys about because we know that a large part of our listeners are in SoCal or in just California in general.
Yeah, and, also part of the AAPI community.
Exactly. So we did want to tell you guys that, whether you are directly affected by this or, know somebody who is affected by this, we are with you. We are praying for you guys. And we are open to having conversations with you guys if you guys want it, because we're very open to you guys.
Super open to it. As Jackie said, I was traveling during this time. I was still over in Houston, and I realistically did not get the news up until Jackie hit me with it. And it's crazy because the one that happened in Monterey Park, it's so close to where me and Jackie usually get food. Literally a spot that we've recommended to you
down
guys.
The block from where all this happened. It really does suck.
Yeah, it really sucks. And I've been around Monterey Park. It's a nice community. There are a lot of Asians who realistically live there. It's a huge Asian community, and I think in the midst of everything that was going on in my head, as soon as Jackie hit me with that news, I really had no other thought in my mind other than
was this
is this really a thing? This sucks. It really sucks. And I think that as a community, whether you are part of the AAPI community or not, this is yet again another tragic moment in history. And I mean, I'm kind of just left speechless right now, to be honest.
No, and I completely understand that. And, I hope some people find peace in knowing that one of the shooters is now in custody of police, and the other took his own life. I mean, no one can ever, even that alone is just a sensitive subject too, but we want you guys to know that we are with you, that we are obviously standing with you, and that we hope that no matter these circumstances and this unfortunate tragedies, we hope that you guys can still celebrate the Lunar New Year and find motivation in it to also make this an even better year, to make this a year more of unity, to make this more a year of peace, it started off this way, but it doesn't have to set the tone for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And, I don't want anybody to build any animosity toward, like, a specific group of people, even though it was, unfortunately, like, AAPI, like, shooters. Just feel animosity toward, like, the people who actually, like, did it. Like, I don't like it when these things happen and then people target, like, mass groups, like, oh, well, it was because of this group of people,
certain groups within the AAPI community.
Exactly.
That's what you mean.
Exactly. Yeah. Because, like, amongst Asians, there are a whole bunch of different Asians. So, like, I don't want anybody to target specific groups of people when it comes to this. Like, look at the specific person who did it. And for reasons why we don't even know, like...
And even if there are reasons out there that they said, that authorities have said or news outlets have said why they did it, I mean, just that's that one person, and it doesn't define a whole group within the AAPI community.
Exactly.
So we just want you guys to, like, again, we are open. Our DMs are always open on Mexipino Podcast Instagram and our own separate Instagrams. And I know a lot of you guys have been DMing me too, just regarding this, because I did post about it, and we posted about it on Mexipino. And it sucked because as soon as I posted something on Mexipino and resources to help victims of Monterey Park, a few hours later, Half Moon Bay happened.
Exactly. In total, there was at least 18 dead within the 3 days of both of the mass shootings.
And unfortunately, in Half Moon Bay, they were all farm workers.
Yeah.
And, I think I don't want to get emotional, but it really sucks, because in both our communities, we take the jobs that people don't want.
Yeah.
And for those people to want to make a living out of doing farm work,
Yeah.
trying to just live a peaceful life, and for it to be tragically taken away the way that it was, I can never understand that. But there are resources to help these victims, and we will give you guys those, and we will put them in our YouTube description, and we'll put them in our links in our bio for Mexipino. So
yeah, did you have can you verbally say it for people who are just like casually listening right now?
So if anyone wants to contribute to helping the victims of either shooting, they're both on GoFundMe. For Monterey Park, you can just look up Monterey Park Lunar New Year Victims Fund. They've had quite a bit of donors and have raised a lot of money already, and they haven't reached their goal yet, but I know that they can. And since Half Moon Bay was so recent, they have started GoFundMe for them as well. It's Half Moon Bay farm worker shooting and flood victims. So both of those GoFundMes have been verified, and they will absolutely go to the victims. And for Half Moon Bay, they will go to not only to the victims, but also farm workers in general. So,
even if you're not one who has the means to donate, like, just be someone who is able to, like, educate yourself and educate other people about what's going on too. And I literally just found out right now it's only January. It's not even the end of January, and there's already been like 30 mass shootings in the U.S.
Yeah, and
not to downplay that. Oh, well, this is 2 out of like 30, but it's like look at the bigger picture, y'all. Like, there's something going on in America, obviously, whether it be like racism, hate crimes,
gun control,
so on and so forth. And whatever your viewpoints on that is, whatever your viewpoints are. I know my viewpoints, and we're not gonna necessarily get into that, but I do just think at the end of the day, like, love triumphs all. And, like, the fact that whether you talk about this or not, like, you need the opportunity to talk about these things with people in your communities. The reason being is so that, like, it can help prevent other people from either committing these mass shootings or just make people more aware about circumstances if they see something happening,
Yeah, and, when Nico says talk about it and be kind with each other.
Yes.
You never know what someone's going through. You never know if someone's just going to need someone to talk to that day. And regardless if you think, that could never happen where I am, Monterey Park was voted one of the safest cities in America.
Yeah. Half Moon Bay is literally where all of my cousins live.
And it happened. It happened 8 minutes from me.
Yeah.
If it can happen in one of the safest cities, then it can happen anywhere.
Yeah. And, not to put, like, paranoia for wherever you're at or whatnot, but, just be aware of your surroundings and just be safe. That's really just what we wanted to talk about to you guys on this podcast. It's just be more aware about, like, what's going on and what's happening around you, because I don't want this to happen again.
No.
We saw this happening, we saw, like, a lot of AAPI hate a couple years ago, like, during the pandemic. And the one thing I always stress is that, like, whenever these things happen, I feel like it always becomes a trend. Like, we look at it for, like, during the time that it happens, we look at stop AAPI hate, and it only happened for, like, a couple months, at least in my opinion, because I'm not sure what happened after that. It's not like people stopped hating AAPI.
Yeah.
And, for me, especially being part of the community, I feel like it's that much more important to not necessarily talk about it every day, but talk about it more and see what we can do little by little to help prevent these things from happening. I don't want this to be a trend. I don't want more mass shootings, not only for the AAPI community, but for, like, all our communities, especially over here in the U.S. Like, I don't want this to happen. And
I mean, we experienced so much hate already, and we've experienced so much hate within both of our communities, the Latino community and the AAPI community, within these past
couple
5 years, really. I mean, 5 to 6 years. I mean, it's become an agenda to hate us.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think that, there's this point where we have to understand that unity, and we're bigger and better and stronger in numbers.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
We all have to just treat each other with love, treat each other with kindness. I mean, black and brown, we're not that much different.
We're really not. I mean, and I think it goes back to the point of why we do the Mexipino podcast, is because now we see not only the Mexipino community coming together, but we see, people. I'll just say this. We'll say specifically, like, Mexicans and Filipinos, like, specifically coming together in probably ways that they never really knew over this podcast. Like, I've met so many people over my travels who are fans of the podcast, and they range from, like, Filipino to Hispanic to Black. Like, I've seen so many different shapes, colors, and sizes of people who love the podcast. And, I think at the end of the day, that just goes to show that the Mexipino community isn't necessarily just Mexicans and Filipinos. It's people who just feel drawn to
what we talk
about, our purpose, our love for all of you and each of you, and we're going to continue to do that.
No, definitely. I mean, like you said, we've discovered a whole new community of people.
Yeah.
People come up to me and say, like, hey, I'm Mexipino. I'm like, oh, wow, like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
There's, like Nico said, there's so many different communities and races and ethnicities of people that come up to us that listen, and we just want you guys. Since we have this platform, we want to be able to use our voices to share with you guys, how distraught we are, how we must imagine that you guys are feeling, and God forbid that one of our listeners is directly affected by this. Yes. And if you are, we are with you. We're praying for you. We are praying for everybody. And like I said, we're always open to talking if anybody needs it.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day too, like, whether more mass shootings happen or just things that bring us together, I want to see, like, Filipinos stand with Mexicans. I want to see Mexicans stand with Filipinos, and I mean, I want to see people of like Hispanic descent stand with AAPI.
Yeah.
I want to see vice versa. I want to see AAPI stand with Black people. I want to see Black people stand with both Hispanic and AAPI communities, and Hispanic with Black, so on and so forth. You guys get what I'm saying. And, you know, like, unfortunately, it's always, like, tragic times that bring us together. Yeah. But, you know, I want us to come together beyond these tragic times. You know, like,
there's much more that we have to just fight together on.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, let's stop fighting. Let's fight together, but let's not the reason why we always come together is because we need to fight.
Yeah. Fight the good fight.
Fight the good fight. No, fight about what food y'all gonna eat for Thanksgiving or something. I don't know. Fight for literally something else.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that's all the time that we have for the podcast today because, I mean, if you guys are viewing on YouTube, you can, like, literally see how emotional both of us are. If you guys are listening on the podcast, hopefully we've reached you with this topic in some way. And, you know, again, babe, can you share all the resources with everybody just to make sure?
So one more time, the GoFundMe for the Half Moon Bay victims is, you can go ahead and go on GoFundMe.com and search up Half Moon Bay farm workers shooting and flood victims. The fundraiser is organized by Darlene Tennis. So that's how you guys will know that one's legit. And then the other GoFundMe for Monterey Park is Monterey Park Lunar New Year Victims Fund. That one is organized by Asian Americans Advancing Justice Southern California. So you guys can do that if you have the means to do it. We're no way asking you or telling you to donate. Yeah. If you guys just want to help, then talk about it. Talk about these things. If you have social media, post about them. Make sure that, you know, our voices aren't silenced, that we're not just going to let them skim over this. We're not going to let media and authorities just put us under a rug again, you know? Yeah. We're talking about it, and we need stricter laws. In my opinion, we need stricter laws, and we need to just unite together. And like I said, fight the good fight together.
Amen to that. My name is Nico Blitz.
I'm Jackie Ramirez.
This is the Mexipino Podcast. We will see y'all on episode 52 next week.
We love you guys. Adios.